central element of international relations.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to address the General Assembly as we commemorate the 70th anniversary of the United Nations to discuss the main goals this organization was created for: the maintenance of international peace and security. Since its inception, the United Nations has helped solve numerous conflicts. Its remarkable role in contributing to bringing peace and prosperity to the world can hardly be underestimated. 70 years after the adoption of the UN Charter that laid ground for the new world order based on the principle of sovereign equality, we still find ourselves in the world shaken by conflicts, aggression, violent extremism, and instability. Newly emerging security challenges and growing asymmetric threats from transnational terrorism are increasingly affecting the situation in many regions, among others in Iraq, Syria, and our immediate neighborhood. We are deeply distressed by the violent developments and rapid deterioration of the security situation in the Middle East, and condemn in the strongest terms all despicable acts of terrorism and violence against civilian population. Terrorist groups such as Daesh threaten not only the nations in the Middle East, but also in Europe, North America, and other places across the globe. It is our firm belief that the entire international community must stand united to effectively counter them. In the meantime, the more traditional threats caused by military expansion and use of force against the neighbors still remain at the core of the regional and international instability. Unlike our expectations in the early 90s, today's Europe is neither free from confrontation nor at peace. European security is being once again deliberately challenged by Russia's ongoing military aggression against Ukraine, annexation of Crimea, and the tragic events taking place in the eastern part of Ukraine should be duly responded by the entire international community. We reaffirm our strong support to the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine. Russia's aggression against my country started in the early 90s and deepened in 2008, when the Russian Federation militarily occupied two of our regions, Abkhazia and Tskhinvali region, South Ossetia, 20% of Georgian territory, resulting in the forcible displacement of hundreds of thousands of Georgian citizens. Following the recognition of the so-called independence of these regions, Russia has been pursuing the policy of creeping annexation. This policy manifested in the signing of dozens of the so-called treaties and agreements by Moscow, providing the pretext for continued illegal military presence and envisaging full merger in all spheres of public domain. By these actions, Russia aims at countering the independent foreign policy of a sovereign state in its choice of European future and democratic values. The human rights and humanitarian situation in the occupied regions remain volatile. The civilian population is deprived of the minimal safeguards for the protection of their universally recognized rights, including the right to free movement and education in native language. The barbed wire fences and other artificial obstacles installed by the Russian occupation forces along the occupation line continue to significantly affect the everyday life of the local population and restrict their civil, social, economic, and cultural rights. The situation raises particular concern given that no international monitoring mechanisms are allowed in the occupied regions. Representatives of international organizations are denied access despite numerous efforts. Notably, the former UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Nevi Pillay, after being refused access, concluded that the Tskinwali region has become a black hole and one of the most inaccessible places on earth, with no access permitted for international agencies. Ladies and gentlemen, Georgia remains dedicated to the peaceful resolution of the conflict. Georgia has been consistently committed to diplomacy and peaceful talks. It is in this spirit that Prime Minister designated Special Envoy for the relations with the Russian Federation. And we continue our constructive participation in the Geneva international discussions as the principal forum to discuss the outstanding security-related and humanitarian issues with the Russian Federation, while Moscow refuses to reciprocate with the unilateral pledge of the non-use of force, hampers any meaningful discussion on the establishment of international security arrangements and obstructs progress on the purely humanitarian issues. First of all, the right of IDPs and refugees to safe and dignified return. We attach particular emphasis to the trust building and mending bridges with our citizens residing in the occupied territories. We fully acknowledge that reconciliation to bring end to the conflict requires hard work and commitment from all sides, and we are ready to do our share. At the same time, the international community has to be steadfast in its adherence to the international law and the fundamental pillars of our security architecture. Unified international stance in support of the principles is the only mechanism available at our disposal to ensure international order and prevent aggressor states from undermining peace and security. Thank you.